He framed her. He claimed she stole from him and kicked her out. 4 years later, he saw 2 little girls with his eyes standing beside her. What secret had she hidden all alone? Was it too late to repair the unforgivable? Witness a powerful story of brutal rejection, a stunning revelation, and the drive to rebuild a shattered life. Watch now and decide, can betrayal ever truly be undone? The CEO's downfall? A victory of endurance? Madelyn Shaw glanced at her reflection, brushing back her dark auburn hair. Her eyes, once full of sparkle, now carried a weight she could no longer mask. The penthouse in downtown Denver, while elegant, had become a golden prison she had inhabited for a decade. "Madelyn, where's my gray suit?" Carter Vaughn's voice thundered from the master suite. She exhaled deeply, bracing for another round of fault-finding. "It's in the closet, Carter. I steamed it last night," she said, keeping her voice steady. "I have to ask you about everything. Why can't you be more efficient?" Carter stepped into view, his tall frame filling the doorway ominously. He was a high-powered executive, owner of multiple tech firms, and he never missed a chance to remind Madelyn of it. The routine was always identical. She would make breakfast, tidy the home, and aim to satisfy his every need, yet it was never enough. Each day, his words cut deeper. "Look at Chase's wife," Carter sneered over his espresso. "She runs a startup and teaches part-time. And you? You contribute nothing." Madelyn clenched her jaw, fighting back the sting. She recalled how, early in their marriage, Carter had insisted she leave her role as a marketing strategist to focus on the home. That choice, once painted as love, was now used to degrade her. At business dinners, Carter would introduce her like a decorative accessory, cutting her off any time she dared to join the discussion. "My wife doesn't know much about these matters," he'd say with a smug grin that made Madelyn want to vanish. Nights were worse. Carter would come in late, reeking of a perfume she didn't wear, barely glancing at the carefully prepared meals. "Not hungry," he'd mutter before vanishing into his office with a bourbon. Madelyn found herself wondering how she had let things spiral this far. The driven young woman she used to be was now just a blurry memory, a stranger in the mirror. One evening, while wiping down Carter's desk, she saw a message flash on his phone. "See you tonight, my love, Camille." The words lit up like a silent verdict, confirming everything she had feared. The shock crashed over her like ice water. Her marriage wasn't only broken, it had been a facade. As she stood staring at the glowing skyline, Madelyn had no idea that her world was about to unravel completely. The cage would break. What would you do if you realized the life you built was founded on lies? Comment below with your gut reaction. Don't forget to subscribe, because the storm is just beginning. That Thursday afternoon, Madelyn made up her mind. She sat waiting in the living room, Carter's phone in hand, surrounded by proof of his betrayal. Photos on his laptop showed Carter and Camille Russell sharing wine and kisses in upscale lounges, intimacy that belonged to her. When Carter stepped inside, his face shifted upon spotting her sitting silently in the dim light. "Who is Camille?" Madelyn asked, her voice barely wavering. Carter didn't flinch. Instead, a cruel grin curled across his lips. "It's about time you caught on," he said, loosening his collar. "Camille is everything you're not. She's sharp, confident, and full of fire." "How long?" Madelyn pressed, hands clenched. 6 months. And honestly, they've been the best of my life." Carter grabbed a tumbler and poured whiskey like he was talking about the weather. "She gets my world. She fits into it. Unlike you, who only know how to live off someone else." The words hit Madelyn like open-handed blows. "What about our marriage, the 10 years we built?" Carter chuckled bitterly. "That wasn't marriage, Madelyn. That was a mistake I made when I was young and naive. I'm fixing it now." He strode to their bedroom and started yanking her clothes from the closet, tossing them to the floor. "I want you gone. You can't do this," Madelyn said, trailing him. "This is my home too." "Your home?" Carter sneered. "Everything's in my name. The house, the vehicles, the bank accounts. You have nothing." Within minutes, Madelyn's belongings were tossed at the front steps. Curious onlookers peered from nearby balconies as Carter hurled the final suitcase onto the sidewalk. "And don't bother with legal threats," he sneered from the doorway. "My legal team will crush you. And with what money would you even afford an attorney?" The door slammed shut with a cold finality, leaving Madelyn alone, surrounded by the life she no longer had. The tears she had held back for so long finally spilled over, merging with the drizzle that had started to fall. Her phone vibrated. A message from Camille. "Thanks for stepping aside, sweetheart. I'll be sure to send you an invite to our big day." That night, inside a rundown motel room off a highway in Boulder, Madelyn knew she'd hit rock bottom. Yet, buried within the devastation, was a faint spark. This disgrace wasn't her end. It was her beginning. Broken and alone, she faced her darkest moment. What kind of strength does it take to rise from such betrayal? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and be sure to subscribe for the path that follows. The days after were a waking nightmare for Madelyn. The motel drained her last dollars in less than a week, forcing her to find a tiny room in a low-income district outside the city. Every phone call to former friends ended the same way. Hesitation, mumbled excuses, and false promises. "I'm sorry, Madelyn, but it's complicated," said Dana, her best friend of over a decade. "Carter's got reach, and my husband works with his firm." One by one, doors slammed. People who had toasted with her at dinner parties now avoided eye contact in public. The social circle she thought was hers had vanished without hesitation. One desperate morning she tried accessing their shared account. The teller gave her a sorrowful glance. "I'm sorry, ma'am. That account no longer exists." Carter had planned everything meticulously. Every credit line was frozen, the balances wiped clean. Even her jewelry stored in a private vault was gone. "Your husband came yesterday with all the right paperwork," the bank director said. At her favorite downtown cafe, the hostess blocked her path. "I'm really sorry, Mrs. Shaw, but we've been told not to serve you. Mr. Vaughn's orders." The degradation was relentless. One afternoon, as she passed a high-end fashion house, she caught a glimpse of Camille posing in a lavish bridal gown. Through the glass, Camille smirked with satisfaction, spinning slowly as if flaunting a prize. The nights were the worst. In her cramped rented room, Madelyn would scroll through old photos. Trips, anniversaries, intimate moments that once seemed joyful, now felt like snapshots from a lie. "Ma'am, I need this month's rent," her landlord reminded her sternly. "If you're short again, I'll have to evict you." With her final dollars, she bought a newspaper and circled job ads. But her decade-long gap in employment was a red flag. 10 years off the grid? Recruiters would say, eyeing her resume with thinly veiled doubt. One afternoon, while sitting on a bench near Colfax Park, she overheard two women chatting. "Did you hear? Carter Vaughn just announced his engagement to that woman Camille. Word is, it's going to be the event of the year." Madelyn gripped the bench until her knuckles blanched. Fury and helplessness churned inside her, but so did something else. A fierce determination. She couldn't keep living like this. She had to start over, even if it meant beginning from scratch. The diner on the corner wasn't glamorous, but it was the only place willing to give her a shot. "Any experience serving tables?" asked Miss Delaney, the owner, a round, middle-aged woman with gentle eyes. "No," Madelyn admitted, "but I pick things up fast." "Everyone deserves a shot," Miss Delaney replied, handing her a green apron. "You start tomorrow at 6. The first few weeks left her drained. Her hands, once soft from years of comfort, grew calloused. Her legs ached from standing all day, and she racked up several coffee burns. Each night, as she soaked her feet and stared at the flaking paint on the ceiling of her rented room, she battled a quiet war inside, between shame and resolve. The whispers of who she used to be echoed louder than the clatter of dishes. But for the first time in ages, Madelyn felt like she was doing something for herself. "Hold the tray like this," said Nina, a younger server who became her first real friend in years. "And don't let the rude ones shake you. Around here, we're all equals." One morning, while wiping down a booth, Madelyn overheard two customers whispering. "Isn't that Carter Vaughn's ex-wife?" one murmured. "She's a waitress now." Her eyes stung, but she kept moving. The humiliation pricked like needles under her skin, but she clenched her jaw and straightened her back. Nina had heard too and sat beside her during break. "You know," she said, breaking her sandwich in half, "my grandma always said, it's not the fall that defines you. It's how you stand back up." Madelyn smiled faintly and took a bite. From penthouse to diner, she was finding her way back. What kind of grit does it take to rebuild a life from the ground up? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to follow this story of redemption. Slowly, Madelyn developed a rhythm. She rose before dawn, arrived early to prep the cafe, and used downtime to study how the business worked. Miss Delaney noticed. "You've got a mind for logistics," she told her one afternoon as they counted stock, "and the regulars adore you. You've got something, girl." The pay wasn't much, but Madelyn learned to make it stretch. She upgraded to a cleaner room, saved what she could, and watched free tutorials on accounting each night. "I won't be a waitress forever," she told Nina one evening as they mopped the floors. "This is just the beginning." "I can tell," Nina replied. "You've got that look, like you're quietly plotting a comeback." Each new shift, each task mastered, gave her a small spark of the woman she once dreamed of being. Not the socialite on Carter's arm, but the visionary she had buried to play a role. In her tiny room, Madelyn taped a sheet of paper to the wall with a sentence she whispered nightly: "I will never rely on anyone again." It became her vow. No humiliation, no hardship would stop her. For the first time in a long time, she was creating something that was truly hers. It was a regular Tuesday at the cafe. Madelyn was clearing tables, humming to herself, when the bell above the door jingled. She didn't glance up, just grabbed her notepad and walked over. "Good morning, what can I get you?" Her words caught in her throat. Standing there was Daniel Mercer, her first love from college, looking sharp in a custom-cut suit, entirely out of place in the simple eatery. "Madelyn?" he asked, clearly stunned. "Wow, I can't believe it. It's really you." Daniel had changed. Gone was the hopeful student with wild ideas. Now he was a major figure in the business world, often featured in national finance articles. "Yeah, it's me," she replied, painfully aware of the coffee-stained apron and the messy bun holding back her hair. "Black, no sugar. 15 years, and you still take it the same?" Daniel smiled, eyes tracing the curve of her face. "Sit down with me, please." "I'm working, Daniel. Just 5 minutes." "After all these years, I think you owe me that much." Ms. Delaney had been watching from behind the counter. With a subtle nod, she gave Madelyn the go-ahead. Madelyn slowly sat, clutching her notepad with nervous hands. "What happened, Madelyn? Last I heard, you were married to—" "What was his name?" "Carter," she replied flatly. "We're not together anymore." Daniel nodded slowly, putting it together. The story had made waves in executive circles, but he never expected to find Madelyn like this. "Let me help," he said. "I've got a few ventures, maybe I could." "No," Madelyn cut in. "I appreciate it, truly, but I'm not looking for handouts." "It's not charity," he said, sliding a card across the table. "It's a chance. The Madelyn I remember, the one who had fire in her. Where is she?" "That version of me is long gone," she replied, rising to refill his cup. "Anything else with your coffee?" "Yes." Daniel reached into his wallet and placed a business card on the table. "My number. When you're ready to remember who you are, call me." That night, sitting in her rented room, Madelyn stared at the card. The embossed gold logo of Mercer Holdings glinted under the lamplight, a painful reminder of everything she no longer had. She thought back to their college days, to all the dreams they once shared. He had always believed in her, even when life took them in different directions. The past, once safely tucked away, now pressed hard against the present. Her hands trembled slightly as she reached to touch the card, only to pull back at the last second. Pride and fear clashed in her chest, leaving her heart in turmoil. "Why now?" she whispered, sliding the card into a drawer. Yet something deep inside her, the peace that had been quiet for years, began to stir. A familiar face returns with a second chance. Should Madelyn take it? Is it wise to accept help from an old flame? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for the next step in her journey. For the next week, she ignored the card. She stayed focused on her routine at the diner, but Daniel's words echoed in her thoughts. Where is the Madelyn who wanted to change the world? One Thursday, as she balanced the register, Daniel showed up again. "The coffee's better than I remembered," he said, sliding onto a stool. "Or maybe it's the person serving it." "Are you following me?" Madelyn asked, pouring him a cup without waiting for his order. "No," he said calmly. "Just committed when I see a good investment." "Investment," she repeated. "Your potential, Madelyn, just like I saw it back then. You turned me down before, but at least listen to my idea." Miss Delaney stepped in. "Sweetheart, take a break. I've got the counter." At a quiet booth in the back, Daniel laid out his proposal. His company had a new venture launching. He needed someone sharp, adaptable, someone with instinct, not baggage from the corporate world. You'd start low, he clarified, but it's a real chance to grow. Why me? She asked. There are thousands more qualified. Because I remember the woman who breezed through finance exams, the one who ran student fundraisers like a seasoned pro, the one who saw solutions before anyone else. That girl is gone. No, Daniel said gently. She's just been asleep. It's time she woke up. Madelyn glanced at her work-worn hands. I'm scared, she admitted. Last time I trusted someone. I'm not Carter, he said firmly. And I'm not here to save you. I'm giving you a shot to save yourself. The words sank in deeper than she expected. No pity, no pressure, just belief, a rare thing. She felt the tightness in her chest ease just a little. That night, while they locked up, Nina found her sitting in silence. Are you going to take the job? She asked. How'd you know? Because ever since he showed up, you've looked like someone who remembers their purpose. Madelyn hugged both Nina and Miss Delaney tightly. I'll visit, she promised. You better, Miss Delaney replied, misty-eyed. And when you're back on top, don't forget where you started. The next morning, Madelyn stepped into the towering glass lobby of Mercer Holdings. Her outfit was simple, purchased with diner tips, but she walked with her shoulders high and eyes clear. Good morning, Daniel said from behind his desk. Ready to begin? Madelyn nodded. Something inside her stirred. This wasn't the end of her journey. It was the real beginning. A new chapter begins. Can Madelyn truly reclaim her place in the business world after everything? What hurdles await? Share your insights in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe for the rest of her remarkable rise. The first month at Mercer Holdings was grueling. Madelyn started in the sales division, but the high-pressure corporate pace left her dizzy. Her early presentations were clumsy. She blanked on industry terms and constantly felt like an outsider. You've got a gift for this, said Sarah, her team lead, after Madelyn closed her first significant deal. You know how to connect with people and pinpoint what really matters to them. Slowly, during staff meetings, Madelyn began to shine. Her ideas were fresh, combining her hands-on customer experience at the diner with the strategic knowledge she was picking up daily. Your pitch for the wellness campaign was brilliant, Daniel remarked during a stop by her tiny cubicle. Where'd you come up with that? From the diner, she said with a shrug. Every customer comes in with different expectations. We're not just selling, we're solving. Daniel smiled, recognizing the same spark he'd admired all those years ago. You know something? Carter was a fool. Carter only saw what he wanted to, Madelyn said, her tone calm. Someone he could control, but that part's over. The weeks turned into months. Madelyn absorbed information at lightning speed, often staying late to study finance terms, market analysis, and business leadership. Her colleagues began to take notice. She's got analytical instincts you can't teach, David, the finance director, told Daniel. I've seen execs with MBAs who don't think like she does. During a major account crisis one afternoon, while panic gripped the floor, Madelyn remained composed. She designed a contingency plan that not only salvaged the client relationship, it enhanced it. How did you stay so calm? Daniel asked her afterward. Once you've been completely broken, she replied, you learn to see problems as chances to rebuild. In her now cozy one-bedroom apartment, Madelyn had created a dedicated workspace. The walls were lined with flowcharts, vision boards, and financial models. Her mind, neglected for so long, was now bursting with strategy and potential. One morning, while reviewing earnings reports, she paused. The woman in the mirror wasn't the same one Carter had thrown out. She was tougher, wiser, and completely her own. You've always had the skill, Daniel told her over a client dinner. You just needed the right soil to grow in. Madelyn nodded, knowing he was right. This wasn't the end of her journey. It was just the true beginning. But the changes weren't only professional. Her style, posture, even her voice carried new assurance. She didn't flinch when questioned or lower her eyes when speaking. She moved with grounded confidence. We're putting you in charge of Project Nova, Daniel announced at an executive briefing. It's a $50 million initiative. The room fell silent. She'd only been with the firm 8 months. Are you sure? Asked Robert, the senior partner. That's a huge leap. I'm certain, Daniel replied. Madelyn has exactly what this needs. She dove into the assignment with relentless focus. Her nights were spent managing overseas calls and writing up strategy briefs. Her days were filled leading a 20-person team, not through orders, but through trust. "You're not like the others," said Anna, one of the analysts. "You lead without looking down on anyone." As the project accelerated, something else began to change. Daniel and Madelyn found themselves lingering after meetings, extending business dinners into long, easy conversations. "Remember our first date?" Daniel asked one evening, flipping through project files. "That terrible coffee place where the waiter spilled soda on your shirt?" Madelyn laughed. "Of course, but that's not the memory that scares me." "I know," Daniel said quietly. "You're not ready. Not yet." She nodded. "I need to be sure I'm not repeating old patterns." She buried herself in the work, but emotions bubbled beneath the surface. The connection between them was undeniable, but so was the fear. One afternoon, during a high-stakes presentation, Madelyn shined. Her deep understanding of the material, confident delivery, and quick responses to tough questions left the entire room impressed. Project Nova concluded not just successfully, it surpassed every forecast. "You are an exceptional woman," Daniel said at the celebration. "You always were, but now everyone sees it." "Thank you for believing in me," she replied. "But this victory is mine." "I know," he said with a grin. "That's what makes it even more incredible." In her new office on the executive floor, Madelyn gazed out over the skyline. Reflected in the glass was a woman transformed, composed, capable, powerful. The past had left scars, but they no longer held the pen writing her future. Her phone buzzed. It was Nina. "How's my favorite exec?" she teased. "Busy, but happy," Madelyn replied. "Truly happy, for the first time in my life." Madelyn's climb was far from over. What will her success and newfound independence mean for her and for Daniel? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for the final turn in her journey. The news spread fast. Madelyn Shaw was named CEO of Mercer Innovations, the fastest-growing wing of Daniel's conglomerate. Financial headlines lauded her rise, praising her leadership on Project Nova. She turned sales around entirely, people whispered, from nobody to executive of the year. The elite circles that once ignored her now begged for her presence. Invitations poured in from all sides. This time, though, she walked through those polished doors with accomplishments. Earned, not inherited. "Miss Shaw, can we get a statement?" A reporter from Modern Executive asked her at a gala. "Your journey is inspiring a generation of women." The same people who once abandoned her now scrambled to reconnect. At one event, Dana, her old best friend, approached her. "Madelyn, wow, it's been ages. I always knew you had it in you." "Really?" Madelyn replied with a measured smile. "Didn't seem that way when I needed a friend." In boardrooms, she proved to be a sharp strategist. Her background gave her insights others lacked. Under her leadership, Mercer Innovations doubled revenue in just 6 months. "Your edge," Daniel said over dinner, "is that you never pretend. You've built something that's entirely yours." Her top-floor office reflected that journey. Awards, framed articles, and photos with top CEOs lined the walls. But tucked in one corner sat a simple photo of the diner crew, reminding her where it all began. "You know what means the most to me?" she told Nina during one of her regular diner visits. "Not the title, not the wealth. It's knowing I earned it, on my own." Her status opened doors long sealed shut. She was asked to speak at universities, delivering keynote talks about resilience, never once mentioning Carter by name. She didn't need to. Her presence spoke louder than the past. She became the face of a new kind of leadership. Empathetic, efficient, unapologetically honest. Business schools cited her as a model for the future. "What's your secret?" asked a student after one talk. "No secret," she answered. "Just show up, be real, and get back up every time you fall." Personally, she found balance. Her circle was small but loyal. Her relationship with Daniel was layered but grounded in honesty and respect. One afternoon, while signing off on international contracts, her assistant stepped in. "Carter Vaughn called. He wants to meet." Madelyn didn't flinch. "Tell him I'm busy," she said, eyes still on her work. "Very busy, building my empire." Madelyn's legacy is just beginning, while Carter's world quietly crumbles. What do you think will become of him? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Like this video and subscribe for the final poetic twist. As Madelyn's success soared, Carter's world began to crumble. It started subtly, Small warnings he ignored, blinded by ego and Camille's insatiable desires. "I need that Tesla we saw last weekend," Camille insisted sweetly. "It's perfect for me." Determined to keep his fiancée satisfied, Carter spent recklessly. Credit card bills stacked up, and his expenditures far outweighed his income. Camille had a talent for burning through cash like air. "Another event?" his accountant questioned, concerned. "Mr. Vaughn, your spending is out of control. Investments are tanking. This isn't sustainable." But Carter didn't listen. He was too preoccupied throwing lavish dinners to impress Camille's influencer friends, most of whom knew more about designer bags than balance sheets. "Babe, my friend Chase is launching this new crypto platform," Camille told him one evening. "We'd be stupid not to jump in. Guaranteed return." Carter wired $500,000 into Chase's venture. 3 weeks later, both the platform and Chase were gone. "You told me this was a sure thing," he shouted at Camille. "Don't yell at me," she snapped. "Or maybe I'll remind people how you treated your ex-wife." His face turned pale. For the first time, the threat hit him harder than the financial loss. The image he'd worked so hard to control, the reputation he clung to, it all teetered on the edge. Things spiraled. Longtime clients left. Gossip swirled around Denver's business circles. "Vaughn's washed up," they said at networking mixers. "I heard he's liquidating properties just to stay afloat." One morning, Carter walked into his office to see employees quietly boxing up their things. His firm was collapsing, and the smart ones were jumping ship. "Sir," his assistant said, trying to stay composed, "the bank's demanding an emergency meeting about the commercial loan defaults." Creditors circled like vultures. Every rash move deepened the hole. Meanwhile, Camille drifted further. After he refused to buy her a designer bracelet, she said, "Maybe we should push the wedding. I need space." The final blow came when Carter discovered his last remaining account wiped clean. And Camille gone. The only thing left behind was a note. "Sorry, babe. I didn't sign up for broke. Thanks for the memories." The words blurred as he read them. His hands trembled, gripping the note like it might disappear if he blinked. But the emptiness she left behind was very real. Sitting in his half-empty office, Carter stared across downtown at the towering Mercer Holdings building, where he knew Madelyn was now CEO. The irony wasn't lost on him. "Sir," his assistant interrupted gently. "The movers are here. They need to clear the office." Carter gave a hollow nod. In less than a year, he had lost everything: wealth, image, control. And it was all his doing. The once mighty have fallen. Carter's empire is rubble, and karma has finally spoken. What lesson do you think his downfall teaches? Leave your thoughts in the comments and subscribe, because the finale is just around the corner. The Grand Commerce Gala was the year's most prestigious event. Hosted at the Regal Imperial Hall, the industry's titans gathered to honor top achievements. This year, the buzz was all about Madelyn Shaw. "Did you hear? She doubled Mercer Innovations' earnings in just 6 months," whispered guests. Madelyn entered on Daniel's arm in a sleek black evening gown, elegance and confidence radiating from her. A hush fell over the crowd as she stepped into the ballroom. She was no longer the shadow of someone's wife. She was the name everyone knew. "Stunning," Daniel whispered. "Though I think half this room is more impressed by last quarter's numbers than your dress." "Numbers don't lie," Madelyn replied, her voice steady with pride. Across the room, Carter caught sight of her. His once polished suit looked worn at the edges. Lines on his face betrayed the toll of downfall. "Madelyn," he breathed, nearly choking on his champagne. She saw him, of course. The contrast was unmistakable. As she rose, he fell. And yet, Madelyn felt no joy in Carter's misfortune, only a quiet, solemn sense of closure. "Want to leave?" Daniel asked, noticing Carter standing awkwardly near the ballroom entrance. "No," she replied calmly. "This is my moment." That evening, Madelyn took the stage as the keynote speaker. Her talk on innovation and resilience captivated the room. At a distant table, Carter watched, his expression torn between admiration and regret. "Miss Shaw?" A group of investors approached her afterward. "Your vision for market evolution is brilliant." Carter made several attempts to approach her that night, but there was always someone else wanting her attention. She was the star everyone wanted to meet. "You know what's really ironic?" Daniel said, as they slow danced under the chandeliers. "He never truly saw who you were." "That's because he only saw what he wanted to," Madelyn replied. "A trophy, something he could own." Near the end of the gala, Carter finally intercepted her near the bar. "Madelyn, she cut in gently. "There's nothing left to say, Carter." "You look," he faltered, "different." "I am different. I always was," she said. "You just never noticed." For a moment Carter said nothing. He simply stood there, helpless, as if words could somehow turn back time. But they couldn't. The distance between them now was far greater than the space between two people. It was the vast chasm between who they had become. The sound of crystal glasses interrupted them. The president of the business association stepped up to the podium to announce the Entrepreneur of the Year. When Madelyn's name echoed through the ballroom, Carter stood frozen. She walked to the stage, radiant, magnetic, as the room erupted into applause. Her speech was short, yet powerful. "Success isn't about defeating others," she said, eyes briefly meeting his. "It's about defeating the limitations we put on ourselves." When she stepped down, Carter had already disappeared, leaving behind a half-full drink and a shadow of what used to be. The days that followed were torture for him. Headlines called her the face of modern leadership, but he was only ever mentioned as her ex-husband. The ex of the Entrepreneur of the Year left the gala early, the papers wrote, alongside blurry shots of him looking tired and gaunt in a wrinkled suit. In his cramped apartment, worlds away from the estate he once ruled, Carter stared at faded photographs and clippings. "How did I let this happen?" he whispered, nursing a bottle of cheap bourbon. His calls went unanswered. His former allies now dodged him. The once golden name Carter Vaughn was now a warning sign. "I'm sorry, Mr. Vaughn," said the manager of his old country club. "Your membership's been revoked for non-payment." One desperate afternoon, Carter stormed into Mercer Innovations headquarters. "I need to see Madelyn," he insisted at reception. "Tell her Carter Vaughn is here." "I'm sorry, sir," the receptionist said, polite but firm. "Miss Shaw is in a closed meeting." As he was being escorted out, he saw Madelyn exit with Daniel, laughing at something he'd said. She looked luminous, everything he had once tried to dim. "Madelyn," he called out, but his voice was drowned by city traffic. He stood frozen in place, watching her disappear down the marble steps, hand in hand with a future that no longer included him. He felt invisible in a world he once thought he owned. Rumors spread fast. "He's living on credit," people whispered. "Camille even took the last of his watches." "He drinks too much," someone added. The final humiliation came when he tried to get a job at a smaller firm. "Your reputation precedes you, Mr. Vaughn," they told him. "We can't take that risk." At a dive bar where he now spent his afternoons, Carter watched a news segment about Madelyn's global expansion and technology deals. "She was always like that," he muttered. "I just kept her caged." The bartender, used to his rambling, slid him another drink in silence. "You know what hurts the most?" Carter said to no one in particular. "It's not the money, not the parties or prestige. It's knowing I held a diamond and treated it like glass." News of Madelyn's continued rise never stopped. High-level partnerships, prestigious awards, leadership forums. Meanwhile, Carter spiraled deeper into regret. One rainy morning, staring at himself in the cracked mirror above his bathroom sink, Carter finally admitted the truth. Madelyn had never been the one who was small. He was. The realization hit him like a punch to the chest. The hollow ache in his chest wasn't just about loss. It was shame, raw and irreversible. That afternoon, soaked and shivering, he stood outside Mercer Innovations. He waited for hours in the rain. When Madelyn finally emerged, he stepped forward, blocking her path. "Please, just 5 minutes," he pleaded. Madelyn studied him, the cheap suit, the puffy face from alcohol, the nervous twitch in his hands. Her security guards stirred, but she held them back with a slight nod. "5 minutes," she said, leading Carter into a nearby cafe. "I love you, Madelyn," Carter blurted the moment they sat. "I always have. I was a fool, but we can fix this. We can start over." Madelyn remained composed, taking a slow sip of her coffee while watching him. The man who once towered over her with intimidation now seemed small. "You know what's strange, Carter?" she said softly. "For years, I believed I needed you, that I was nothing without you. But when you threw me out, that was the best thing you ever did for me." "It was a mistake," he said quickly. "I was lost, Camille, my ego. But you're the only woman who—" "No," she interrupted. "I'm not the only one. I'm the one who succeeded. If I were still on the street, you wouldn't be sitting here." Tears streamed down Carter's face. I can change. Just give me another shot. I still have contacts, connections. Connections? She echoed with a sad smile. You mean the same ones ignoring your calls now? No, Carter. I'm not here to gloat. I'm here to close the door. What does Daniel have that I don't? He asked, voice cracking. Respect, she answered. For me, for my work, for who I am. Something you never gave. Carter reached for her hand, but she gently pulled back. I'm broke, Madelyn. I've got nothing. You could help. Like you helped me? She said evenly. When you locked me out with nothing? Her voice held no anger, just clarity. No, Carter. You're here because of your choices, just like I am because of mine. She leaned forward slightly, her tone gentle yet unwavering. I wanted to hate you once, but now, I just hope you find peace. Not for me, for you. What am I supposed to do? He asked, crumbling. The same thing I did. Start over. Learn. Grow. She stood, leaving cash on the table for the coffee. But this time, do it for yourself, not to impress anyone. Before walking away, she paused and looked at him one last time. Thank you, Carter. For what? He asked, broken. For showing me how strong I could be. And then she was gone. Carter watched her silhouette vanish into the rain, alone in a sea of strangers, her words echoing. Outside, her driver opened the door. Everything all right, Miss Shaw? Yes, she replied, taking one last glance at the cafe. Everything is just as it should be. That night, the city's most exclusive restaurant buzzed with conversation. At the spotlight table sat Madelyn and Daniel, dining among the country's top power players. Her engagement ring sparkled under candlelight, drawing admiring whispers. Did you hear? A socialite leaned in. They say it'll be the wedding of the year. From a dark corner at the bar, Carter watched. He wore his last decent suit, the one he could barely afford to dry clean. His drink sat untouched. It was all he could buy. You know what's funny? Daniel said aloud, voice loud enough for Carter to hear. Some men hold treasure in their hands and never realize it. Others wait patiently, and when the moment comes, they show the world what love really looks like. Madelyn's cheeks flushed. It's true, my love, Daniel continued, raising his glass. A toast to the most remarkable woman I've ever known, and to the future we're building together. Glasses clinked. Carter felt every word like a blow. The contrast was unbearable. Him in the shadows, Madelyn glowing in the light. More wine, sir? The bartender asked gently. No. I'm leaving, Carter muttered, standing up slowly. As he passed the main table, Daniel looked up. Carter, what a surprise! Did you hear the good news? The table went quiet. All eyes flicked between Carter, Daniel, and Madelyn. Congratulations, Carter murmured, barely above a whisper. You should stay, Daniel offered, a smile playing at his lips. Celebrate with us. After all, if it weren't for you, Madelyn and I wouldn't be here today. Madelyn watched it all with quiet intensity. Too many feelings to name. She felt no joy in Carter's humiliation, but she couldn't ignore the poetic justice of the moment. That's enough, Daniel, she said softly, placing a hand on his arm. Carter used the pause to slip away, his exit marked by a quiet stumble and muffled laughter that followed him through the restaurant's door. Outside, the rain had started. No umbrella, no dignity, just worn-out shoes soaking in puddles as he drifted down the street. Carter, Daniel's voice called after him, calm and cool. One last piece of advice. When you lose everything, remember, it's because you buried yourself. Carter didn't answer. What could he say? Daniel had everything now. Madelyn's love, the admiration of the business world, and the victory of watching his former rival broken. The couple's taxi pulled away, leaving Carter behind in the rain, a shadow of the man he once was. In his coat pocket, the bar receipt marked his last trace of the elite world he used to rule. The months that followed sealed Carter Vaughn's collapse. The streets that once hosted his exotic cars now watched him wander, eyes down, hoping to find a way, anyway, back to what he'd lost. Is that Carter Vaughn? Pedestrians murmured. No way. What happened to him? His days slipped into a miserable pattern. He'd wake late in a dingy motel room, paid week to week with scraps. Empty liquor bottles stacked in the corners like trophies of regret. Each morning, the same dull ache settled in his chest, the kind that came not from hunger or cold, but from the weight of knowing he had no one left to blame. Mr. Vaughn, the motel manager said one morning, if you can't cover the next week, we'll have to ask you to leave. He tried calling old business partners, voicemails, excuses, cold silence. The name Carter Vaughn, once golden, now drew pity and discomfort. Desperate, he returned one day to the office building that had once housed Vaughn Industries. Everything had changed. The logo, the colors, even the company name. "Can I help you, sir?" asked a security guard, eyeing his rumpled clothes. "No, I was just looking," Carter mumbled, retreating, head lowered. In city dive bars, Carter became something of a legend, the washed-up mogul who traded old success stories for free drinks. "I had it all," he'd slur to anyone willing to listen. Money, power, and the most incredible woman. One afternoon, crossing the financial district, he caught sight of his reflection in a polished glass building. The man staring back was nearly unrecognizable, hair unkempt, shirt wrinkled, dark circles under hollow eyes. "What happened to me?" he whispered. The answer sat in the silence of his empty pockets, the echo of doors long closed and the fading memory of who he used to be. A newspaper lay on a nearby bench. On its business page, a glowing photo of Madelyn Shaw announced Mercer Innovations' expansion into global markets. She was radiant, confident, the complete opposite of the woman he once left behind. He tried to write her a letter, something heartfelt, but every draft read as pathetic, weak. They all ended up in the trash, along with his pride. "Karma, man," muttered a former employee who passed him on the street. "Guess it really is real." The irony was cruelly perfect. The man who once stepped on others to climb now found himself beneath their feet, just another story whispered in offices and social lounges. One night, on a bench in the park, he opened his frayed wallet and found a single relic, an old photo from his wedding to Madelyn. She smiled brightly in the picture. He, staring at the camera, wore that smug, untouchable look. "I'm sorry," he whispered to the image, just before a gust of wind tore it from his fingers, carrying it into the dark. On the top floor of Mercer Innovations, Madelyn's office offered a sweeping view of the city. She could see the neighborhood where she and Carter once lived, but as her eyes passed over it, she felt nothing. The past was just that. The past. "The last quarter numbers are incredible," said Jennifer, now Madelyn's executive assistant. "Shares have jumped 40% since you took over." Madelyn smiled, scanning the reports. Her desk overflowed with projects, expansion strategies, and cutting-edge proposals. But each page symbolized more than business success. It marked triumph over her own doubts and fears. "Did you see the article about Carter?" Jennifer asked gently. "Yes," Madelyn replied, her tone neutral. "It's sad, but we all harvest what we sow." Her upcoming wedding to Daniel was near, but it wasn't the focus of her life. Their relationship stood on mutual respect and admiration, not the dependency that had tainted her first marriage. "You ready for the interview?" Daniel asked, peeking into her office. Fortune magazine had selected her for its cover. "From waitress to mogul, the Madelyn Shaw story," the headline read. During the interview, the reporter asked about Carter. "How do you feel seeing your ex-husband in his current state?" Madelyn paused before answering. "I don't find pleasure in his downfall. What I feel is gratitude for the lesson. Our worth isn't defined by others, it's something we create for ourselves." Her voice didn't waver, but her chest tightened briefly, not from pain, but from the weight of all she had overcome. She knew her strength wasn't born from ease. It had been forged in silence, in dark rooms, in the spaces no one else saw. That afternoon, she visited the corner cafe. Mrs. Benson greeted her with a warm, motherly hug. "Just look at you," the older woman beamed. "I always knew there was something special. I learned more here than at any business school." Madelyn replied, taking a seat at her old counter spot. Julia, now the cafe manager, joined them. "Remember your first day? You looked terrified." The three women laughed, wrapped in memories. Madelyn had invested quietly in the cafe, allowing Mrs. Benson to remain the heart of the place. Back in her office, Madelyn found an envelope without a sender. Carter had written again. She didn't open it. She didn't need his words or his regrets. "What do you want me to do with this?" Jennifer asked. "File it," Madelyn said. "It's a chapter that's already ended." As the sun set over the skyline, she looked at her reflection in the glass. She wasn't the frightened woman who'd once been tossed out. She was complete, strong, free. And in the quiet of that moment, she felt something deeper than success. Peace. A life she had written with her own hands. True victory, she thought, isn't money or fame. It's finding yourself. Her phone buzzed. Another deal secured. There, another milestone. Another step forward. Madelyn smiled, knowing her story was still being written. The Ritz ballroom glowed in gold during the annual industry gala. Madelyn, stunning in crimson, took the stage to receive the Businesswoman of the Decade award. Beside her, Daniel stood, pride in his eyes. "People ask what the secret to success is," she began. "There are no secrets, just work, persistence, and the belief in yourself, especially when no one else does." Among the crowd, Mrs. Benson and Julia clapped with teary eyes. Madelyn had invited them as her guests of honor, a symbol of her roots. After the ceremony, a young reporter approached. "Miss Shaw, how do you feel knowing your ex-husband now works as a shop clerk?" Madelyn paused thoughtfully. "I wish him well. Sometimes we have to lose everything to find the right path." Later that evening, on the hotel terrace, Daniel wrapped his arms around her. "Are you happy?" he asked. "More than that," she replied. "I'm at peace." Madelyn's journey became a national inspiration. At universities, students, especially women, listened intently to her lectures, imagining similar futures. But her real fulfillment didn't come from the applause or awards. It came from freedom. The freedom to be herself, to choose, to build something authentic. And that freedom, she knew, was the greatest form of wealth she had ever earned. As the night wore on, Madelyn stood beneath the stars, smiling, not because she had beaten anyone, but because she had found herself. The best revenge, she thought, is being truly happy. Let's pause for a second. Just you and me. What did we really witness here? Madelyn's rise wasn't about revenge. It wasn't even about success, at least not the kind that sparkles on magazine covers. Her victory was quiet. It was in the mornings she chose to get up, even when life felt unfair. It was in the courage to trust again after being shattered. And it was in the dignity of walking away when the past came crawling back. The Stoics say, we suffer more often in imagination than in reality. And isn't that true? Madelyn could have stayed in fear and shame and grief, but she didn't. She chose to act, to rebuild, to believe. Another line I love from Marcus Aurelius: "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." That's what this story really is. Madelyn didn't just survive her pain, she used it. She turned it into strength, into leadership, into freedom. So, if something in your life feels broken, maybe it's not the end. Maybe it's the start of your becoming. Now, before we go, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for watching, for feeling, for staying. If this story resonated with you even a little, do us a favor. Give it a like, share it with someone who needs it, and subscribe to join this community of beautiful souls who believe in second chances. See you in the next story.